Hi there, welcome to this restoration renovation project of this Keil Kraft Bantam, where we're bringing this lovely 1950s design back into flying condition. Now this is a much enlarged version of the original model, which was 39-inch wingspan. This has got a 60-inch wingspan and it's going to be 2-channel, rudder and elevator. This was given to me recently and it just had a rudder, and it was in quite poor condition, so I decided to give it a full refurb and add that elevator. And I'm really looking forward to getting this finished, and you can see we are almost there now. There's very little that we've got to do and it's getting quite exciting, the thought of getting this finished and off to the airfield. Now in the last video I got these cowls done around the engine, and I don't know whether you can see it on the back here, around the cockpit. Now in this video what I want to do is to make a new needle, jet needle, so that we can have it sticking out through the cowl. Now I'll zoom the camera in and I'll just show you the issue, and then we'll get on and make this needle. So as I said, we've got the cowl done and it shows off this lovely old 1940s engine. Lovely, I really like the way you can see it. Now we can get to the compression screw easily enough, no problem at all. Let's just turn this round. So we can get to the compression screw there and it's not going to cause a problem. It'd be well clear of the prop. However, we can't get to the mixture needle in there. You can just see it here. I mean, you try and get in that way and you're going to lose your knuckles. So what we need to do is we need to make a longer needle that projects out of the side of the cowl here, and I'll show you how, or what this looks like and how we're going to make it now. So we'll just take this engine out and we can just unscrew this. Typically it would be in that direction with the needle on the top, but with this you can have it in any direction. So we're going to have it on the side like that. So I'll unscrew this and we'll have a closer look. Okay, so we've got the venturi off here. It's a very simple structure. There isn't a spray bar as such. The needle just comes down to a jet in the bottom of the venturi, and you just wind this out to increase the mixture. Now you can possibly see the needle if I bear with me a second there. I think hopefully that is in focus and you can see the needle sticking down across the venturi. Now if we unscrew this, the needle, we've got the spring as you'd expect, but we've got a very simple needle, and if I can just hold that like that, you can see. Now hopefully that is in focus. Now we're going to make this out of two pieces. We're going to make a brass, just get a pointer, we're going to make a brass section here, and we're going to make a steel section for the pin, and I'll just put that on there and see if I can get a closer shot of that so you can see it in more detail. There you go, you can see the brass section and you can see the steel pin section. Now the brass section, we're not going to make it quite such a large diameter. I'm going to make it smaller, 6mm, and I've got some 6mm, I think it's slightly under 6mm brass rod there that we're going to use. And the reason I'm making it smaller is because then we'll have a smaller hole in the cowl, and that will be better than trying to drill a big hole, and we don't need it to be big. We're only going to have a small button like we've got here, and then we're going to have a piece of wire that comes out with a little bit of a loop on the outside of the cowl for adjustment. So, and this thread here is a 6BA thread, British Association that is. The pin we're going to make out of some 1.5mm music wire, and you can see the point on here. It's not too bad actually, but what I might do is try and make this wire with a slightly longer point, just to give us a little bit finer adjustment. First thing we're going to do is make the pin, and we're going to use this music wire as I said, so I'll get set up and we'll have a look at how I'm going to do that. Right, well as I said, we're going to make the needle out of this music wire. And it's hardened music wire, it's great stuff for these needles. But we need to know how long to make it, because it's not just this little needle section. We're going to bring the needle through the brass body, out the other side, long enough so it sticks out through the cowl here with a little bit of a bend on it or a loop or something, so we can adjust it from the outside. So this piece of wire needs to be long enough for that. And I reckon that if we cut this 50mm long, so about, what is that, 2 inch? Yeah, 2 inches long, then that will be about the right length. We don't want to make this longer than necessary for a couple of reasons which will become apparent later. So let's get that cut 150mm long, and then I'll show you how I'm going to put the point on. Okay, here's my 50mm long piece of music wire. As I said, it's 1.5mm thick, or diameter. And I'm going to put this in my electric drill. And the reason that I don't want the wire any longer than necessary is because I don't want it sticking way out and sort of bending and flexing. Now what I'm going to do is there we go, I'm going to put this on the side of the grindstone as it's turning, and I'm going to turn the drill as well. And by doing that, we should get a nice point on the end here. So I'll switch this on in a minute and we'll get this done. I probably won't talk while the grinder's going because it's going to be noisy. Now sometimes you get it a little bit off center, and if you do, you can try and get that out, or you can start again. But this does produce really good needles, and I've done a few like this before. So I think the trick is not to press too hard. So here we go. Right. Right, so we've got our needle done, and you can see that is, I think it's very slightly longer than the original, which I think is going to be absolutely fine. And I did polish the end of it a little bit with some really fine wet and dry paper, emery paper, just because the grindstone did put a few marks in it that I just needed to get out. Now that is lovely and smooth. So what we're going to do now is move on and start making the brass work. Right, I've got my bit of brass in the lathe, and I've got my existing needle valve here. Now I'm going to turn down this narrow piece here so we can put on the 6BA thread, and leave a slightly wider piece at the back that we can then knurl. And I need, of course, to drill a hole down the centre. So I'll start machining this and see how it goes. Right, now I've got that down to size, ready for threading. But to help us with the threading, I'm just going to put a little bit of a chamfer on that edge. And that's one of the reasons for doing this slightly longer than we actually need. So we can put a little chamfer on it, it'll help the thread start, and then we can trim that up afterwards. There we go. Just a little bit like that will just help. Right, now to put the thread on nice and square, we're going to use the end of the tailstock as a guide. And I'm going to be using my lovely old dies. It's from a set I've got, which is from the War Department, and you can actually see the broad arrow there, and I don't know whether you can see just inside there it says 1944. I've had these a while and I picked them up really cheap and I use them all the time. They're really nice. So this is 6BA, and we're going to put a little bit of oil on, cutting oil, just to lubricate it a little bit in the die, and we're going to put that in place, and we're going to do this all by hand. Oops, got to tighten the tailstock up, of course. There we go. And we're just going to use this to put on nice square pressure. And as I rotate the chuck with my hand, I'm just going to be taking up the slack with the tailstock like that. And once we get so far, we'll take the tailstock off and just... I also find that when I'm doing threading, sometimes my initial bit of thread isn't brilliant. So if I do it slightly longer, like I've done here, I can then trim it off. Like I say, I'm no machinist. I'm just an amateur. So here we go. A little bit more oil, just to keep that well lubricated. Now that should be coming out the back of the die. Yes, it is. So we can take the tailstock away, and I can just carry on doing this now. Still got to be mindful of keeping it nice and square. Right, just give that a brush. That's looking really nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill a hole through there that'll accept the needle, that will go through right through this brass body that we're making. And the needle I've made is 1.5 millimeters. The hole I'm going to drill is going to be just under 1.4, so it's going to be a really nice tight snug fit. Will knock the pin in. So I'll get that drilled now. Right, I've now got this set up to do the knurling. I need to be really careful here because I don't want to damage it having got this far. Knurling is quite close, the knurling machine is quite close to the jaws of this chuck, but I think we will be fine. So we'll turn the speed right down. And we'll have a look at that. Not the best knurling in the world, but it'll do. It's just put a little bit of a pattern on there, and that'll be fine. So what we need to do now is get this cut off and cleaned up. Right, now rather than try and part this off and it all going ugly, I'm just going to cut it off with a saw, and then we can turn it round and we can face it off and clean it up. I think this is a far better, easier, cleaner process than risking it going horribly wrong at this stage. There we go. There we go. Got that nicely faced off now. A little bit too close to the chuck for comfort, but I was careful. So we'll get this out now and we'll see what it looks like. Now for the potentially tricky bit. This is going to be quite a nice, nice I say, tight fit in the hole, and I'm just going to knock the needle through. Now I have tried this on a bit of scrap before I use that drill, just to make sure it would knock through. Thankfully we only need to knock it till it's just sticking out, just poking out, and we've got the original there which we'll use for comparison, and we can try it in the Venturi. And I've got this little bit of an anvil, just a bit of aluminium with a hole going through it, that I can use to hopefully hold it secure. So now we need to be really careful that we don't knock this through too far, because if we do, we can't come back. Oh, just a little bit more, I think. So I'll get this knocked through the right amount anyway, which it's looking now, and then I'll show you the comparison. Right, I've now got this done and back together. I'm really pleased with how that's looking. Now, if you close it down fully, then you can just about see the threaded portion. I don't know whether I can show you that. The threaded portion of the new needle just going into the Venturi there. But if you back it off a couple of turns, then that ends up more or less flush with the top of the Venturi, which I think is just about right. And I've blown through with a bit of tube like this. You can, I don't know whether you can hear that, just to see whereabouts the needle needs to be roughly, and if it's actually working and closing off the supply, which it does lovely. So I see I've got a very slight bend in the wire here, which I need to straighten, which is no big problem, and then we need to fit this to the engine and get the hole drilled in the cowl. Right, well, I've now got the cowl removed and I've got the engine bolted in place, and I've got the carb on in the position that I want it to be, and you can see there that I've put it at a little bit of an angle so that it's higher on this side for adjustment, and we've got the fuel tube coming down to the tank, which will be on the side there. And what we need to do is translate these positions to the cowl so we can drill a hole in. And what I've done is I've got a couple of pieces of card. It's not really thick, but it's better than paper. And what I'm going to do is just tape that in position with some low tack tape, and I'll just tear some tape off now. And I'm using low tack because I don't want it to damage my tissue. And what we're going to do is just line that up. I'll just turn that round. You can see it's right in the center of that hole. So what I'm going to do now is just stick that in place, and I'm going to put on another couple of pieces of tape because I really don't want this moving. And another piece there, and another piece. I should have put a longer piece on the bottom. Now we can fold that out the way, and I'm going to do this on the other side, and then we'll get the cowl fitted again without the carb or the needle and the fuel tube, and we can then fold the paper back and see where the hole needs to be on the cowl. So I'll get this other piece of card on, and then we'll get the cowl on. Right, so we've got the cowl back on and we've folded the card, and now we can see where those holes need to be. So I'll just mark that there, and I'll come around the other side and mark that as well. And then we need to get these drilled on my bench drill. Now I need to be really careful drilling this because I don't want to mess up the cowl. If I try and just go straight through with a 6mm bit, it's just going to twist this all over the place. So I'm probably going to go through with a 2-3mm drill, and then I'll increase it by 1 millimetre, half a millimetre, until I get up to 6mm, which is what I'm aiming for. It'll just give me a nicer hole than trying to do it all in one go and getting snapped by a big drill. You can get hole drills, which I don't have, so that's going to be my tack. But you can see there, I've marked that. So I'll get that done, and we'll have a look once it's finished. Right, I'm about to start drilling this, and I just thought I'd show you. I've got a piece of wood here with a cutout, so I can get the cowl over there and drill it with the cowl coming underneath, and it's on a nice flat surface, so that it hopefully doesn't distort. And I always wear a glove when I'm doing sheet stuff like this, because you just never know when it's going to spin round and take a slice out your hand. So I'm going to go with this 3mm drill first, and then we'll work our way up, as I said. Well, I've actually decided to go up in some half sizes, so I'm on 5.5mm now. I'm just really paranoid about damaging the cowl. It'd be such a shame if we did some damage at this stage, but we're getting there. Right, well, I've done the 6mm hole now, and there's no distortion or anything from the drilling. It's gone really well, and going up in those sizes, just 1/2mm at a time, really helped. The holes aren't quite round, so I'm just smoothing them out with this chainsaw file, sharpening file, and just deburring the holes a little bit, and then I'll get this fitted. But that's looking really good. I'm really pleased with it. There we go. Right, so there we go. We've got that finished now. You can see we've got the needle in there and the bit of fuel pipe coming out of there. And if I turn this round, we can see that's pretty much central within that hole. That's worked out really well. And if I turn it around, you can see the same with the fuel pipe, which will come down to the tank, which is somewhere around here. So I'm really pleased with how that's gone, and no ugly dents or creases in the cowl, which I was really worried about. Well, we've got our needle made, we've got it fitted, we've got the cowl drilled, and it's all looking lovely. So where do we go from here? Do I draw this video to a close, or do I get this in the test stand and just see how that needle works? I mean, I have no doubt that needle is going to work absolutely lovely, but some of you out there might think, well, we don't know that unless you actually show us. So here we go, let's get it in the test stand and see how it runs. Right, let's get this thing fired up. Well, that didn't want to stop, but that's running lovely now. Really nice.